Welcome to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up Podcast. My name is Denise Cardona from the Office of Professional Programs at UMBC. Today we are joined by an alum of our UMBC Iowa Psychology graduate program, Twisha Thakore. And she comes to us from India, and we have a really great conversation about Iowa Psychology, her role in it, the things that she learned. And we hope that you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for being on here, Twisha. It's really wonderful to have you on the UMBC Mic'd Up podcast.
Thank you so much, especially for considering me to be part of this entire initiative. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, thank you.
You're very welcome. Where are you coming from? So you are not in the States right now, right? You are somewhere else. Tell us where you are.
So I'm currently residing in a city called Ahmedabad, which belongs to the state of Gujarat, and it's obviously in India. So yes, I'm back to my country after pursuing my master's from the States, but it's really good to be connected to you.
Oh, it's really great to have you here. I just love how technology lets us connect with people all over the world.
That's true.
Right? I mean, 10 years ago, this wouldn't have been something that we could have considered. So it's really a great, wonderful benefit and move forward and with progress in the world. So yay for technology. So Twisha, when did you graduate from UMBC's Iowa Psychology graduate program?
So I believe I graduated in spring 2019.
Ah, very nice. So right before the world had the pandemic hit.
Correct. That's right. I mean, I feel blessed at one point of time and a little bit privileged that we were amongst the last batch or group of students who could at least complete our capstone project presentation with the clients while being with them in their office premises and also being able to present it, in class, and not having Zoom laptops or having the screens in between. So I'm really, really thankful for that.
And you were able to get back home to India too, which I'm sure you're grateful for.
I am. It was though not a very pleasant journey trip back home because it was exactly in the middle of pandemic when my country had started these flights where we had to enlist ourselves because they were pulling people to come back to their country safely. So yes, it was not that much of a pleasant experience because it was right in the middle of the first wave. So yes.
Yes. So speaking of journeys and things like that, hopefully this will be more of a pleasant journey that we'll talk about. What was your journey? What was your journey to get to UMBC at the universities at Shady Grove in the Iowa Psychology program?
My God. Okay, that takes me back to the memory lane. It's nostalgic and it's definitely a pleasant journey. So I'll start off like this. When I was sure that I wanted to pursue industrial and organizational psychology, I started looking out for programs that gave both best of the both worlds. I wanted to look forward to something that gave me practical experience along with the theoretical knowledge offerings. And UMBC was the best choice for me because I really did not wish to pursue for any PhD program. And I guess the entire approach of how the program was designed in the first place, because every single semester we had courses that were offering us the opportunity to interact with clients and work with them in some or the other way. Right. And that's the reason why I had researched UMBC so much. And I was sure that even if I was going to get into another university, which I did, and I was getting a scholarship there, I knew that UMBC was my destiny. And I'm so glad I did.
Oh, that's really wonderful to hear. Wow. So what was it that made you choose UMBC over whoever that other institution was? What made you choose UMBC?
So as I said, it's the the practical exposure, like how any course that I picked up, let's say, for example, survey design and development that was taken up by, the professor, she was very clear right from the start that you are going to be interacting with one of the potential clients. And that's the reason that even today, I know how in the practical world, I'm able to apply the principles and theory of survey design. So it's that takeaway for me, which was very special. And I had looked up at all the testimonials from the alumni, and they had said the same thing. I mean, I don't think so that everyone can just simply have a flowery language on their testimonial. So it's all these experiences, it's all these experiences that I was really sure that I wanted to be at UMBC, which set the university program very much apart.
And so you decided this from India. You were living in India at the time. You were researching U.S. institutions where you could go, and you found UMBC. Well, we're so happy that you found us, that you found your home with us for a little while.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. Now, what are you doing right now in your current role? What are you using? What you learned in IO psychology?
To a major extent, yes. I'd start off like this, that industrial and organizational psychology, like IO psychology, is not that much famous, so to say. Not everybody knows about the field or the application of field in India yet. But to my surprise, that I'm able to apply a lot of its aspects to my role, because they have given me the leverage of taking certain organizational development initiatives. So I'm a senior executive with a software engineering company that has its locations and its foothold in India as well as in the Netherlands. And they provide IT solutions. So my job majorly is to provide certain organizational development initiative related solutions, strategic planning, offer them insights into employee engagement, and internal awareness branding of HR initiatives. And I think I'm really happy that I'm doing all those things using the background and knowledge that I gained from UMBC's program. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, if India is not rooted exactly in IO psychology currently, how did you learn about the industry itself? What was it that you learned and it piqued your interest and you said, I have got to study this?
So, just like how we look at different memes on LinkedIn, especially, so there was this very small introductory chapter in my general psychology during my undergraduate program in India. And it talked about leadership. And that is something that I have always connected with. So my first thesis or my paper presentation was on leadership effectiveness. And that's how I got connected to the field of industrial and organizational psychology right from my undergraduate program. And I knew for sure that even though I didn't wish to do clinical, it was not that IO psychology was my secondary option, but it had always been my primary interest, because how the qualities of a human are clearly linked to their performance and ultimately their efficiency and meaning they get out of the work. And the satisfaction that they get out of work is something that had always intrigued me into seeing what can there be more to this, what science can prove more into this. And that's why IO psychology, I just knew I had to go there in that direction.
It sounds like a very fascinating career path. And, if you think about it, we spend the majority of our waking hours in the work environment. And
absolutely.
What a purposeful job it is to be able to come from the lens of, I want to help improve the lives and the mindsets of people who are out there in the industry working and sacrificing their time with their family, with their, their hobbies, with extracurricular activities they are spending here. How can I improve that process for them? Looking at it through the lens of psychology and how our minds work and how our passion points and where we derive happiness and all of that stuff.
It's so beautifully you put it there. I guess you have just literally taken words from my mind and translated it into English so well. Thank you.
Oh, that's it. We have the paragraph now. We have the snippet. We can put it out there in the world. No, but I've been reading a lot. I have been reading so many books lately about mindset and happiness and being able to find that pathway that makes you want to get up in the morning, that makes you not hit the snooze button on your alarm clock, that makes you say, I want to go make a difference in the world. I want to make an impact. And sometimes for some people that making an impact is like far and wide. But for some other people, it could be just, for me, when I wake up in the morning, I want to know that I've helped touch one person in the world, at least one person. If I can at least make an impact on one person, and it could be a small way, it could be bringing a cup of tea to my husband. It could be anything. If I know that I've made somebody happy and shifted their perspective and their mood, then I feel like I've been successful. And so what a great thing that you could translate that sort of stuff, looking at and analyzing how a workplace is defined, set up, how they encourage and engage and interact with their employee base. It sounds so purposeful.
Absolutely.
What kind of skills and knowledge base did you take from the program, and now you can sort of apply it into what you're doing right now? What are some of the core ones that you would say?
First core knowledge that has helped me to even get through right from the internship phase to my first job and now to my second job in India is just one. I'm so glad I took that course, and that's job analysis. Job analysis is like the core for everything. I feel like, it's like that ingredient which you have to use for every recipe. You want to find out what's wrong with the training, go do the job analysis. You want to set the KRAs, KPIs for even more than 50 roles, just go to job analysis. You want to try and even start implementing strategic plans for your next year. Job analysis is the first key, is your answer. It's like a magnifying glass that can literally make you look through every small detail, because it's that one particular job and the aspects around it which has helped me to do and perform my role effectively. So every single time I had to come up with any kind of solutions for senior leadership, even in my current role, I would simply turn and start doing this entire job analysis process that I learned from the IOPsych program. And I guess even though the people in my company, they don't know what it means, they're like, oh, she's doing her thing again. So
you're bringing that value, and they don't even realize, they're not even sure what the mechanism is for that, you bringing that value, but you are bringing that value because of the skills that you learned. And I would imagine that part of that analysis, it's about asking really great questions.
That's
right. It's being able to ask those questions that maybe other people aren't even asking, coming at it from different types of angles, exploring all the angles in order to find out what the findings are, what the root causes are, and then being able to intelligently and I guess, through solid research, be able to provide recommendations to be able to close those performance type of gaps.
So, what I have understood is the first quality that I had to adapt was to know the terms of every industry, because IO psychology is it's industry agnostic. It fits everywhere. So the first job was to know the terms, and the second job was to know what the management or senior leaders always wanted, and wanted to know what was causing a problem or what they wanted to achieve in the first place. And job analysis had answers to everything, but I guess it was not just the job analysis, the process of it, the process of asking the right questions lied in the survey design and development lessons that I just talked to you about. Right. So it was a combination of two, and at the same time, realizing how the role of HR, specifically the management side, gets absorbed in this entire process. So it was at every different stage, I have realized that how different courses have helped me to at least complete the piece of the puzzle, especially when it came to employee effectiveness and productivity.
Yeah, because it's a lot of different skill sets that you're referring to here that come into play to be able to do a really thorough, deep analysis. I mean, you've got to be able to construct survey questionnaires, interview questions,
Exactly.
a focus group, possibly if you're doing focus groups.
Exactly.
You need to be able to put that detective hat on, right? And really dig deep to find what is it that people are walking over and not even realizing. What is that? And then, what a cool feeling that must be. It must be kind of fun solving a puzzle like that. And then seeing the excitement on the people who you're handing this kind of your recommendations and your findings over to them, and it must be kind of fun to be able to blow them away that way.
Correct. I guess speaking of recommendations, the major part is how IO psychologists turn the entire data analysis report, turn the numbers into a story.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes.
So that's the part, when they're like, okay, these are graphs. Now what? So that's the part where the entire foundation or the functional knowledge of research methodology comes into a major picture, because you are now able to look at any kind of glitches, biases that is happening, any chaos that is going inside that entire data set, and then translate it in a manner where people are able to understand. And that's the beauty of it.
That is the beauty of storytelling is at the heart of most anything. Yeah. We, as human beings, we relate to stories. I mean, that has proven true throughout the ages. Yes. Around campfires and things like that. That's where stories are told. And that's how legends, and that's not legends, that's how facts and cultures and history are passed down from generation to generation. And so our minds, I believe, are geared towards that storytelling, the beginning, the middle, the end. We want that resolution. We want to be able to have that cycle, right? And if you can do that, what a powerful skill set that is. And I mean, anybody who's listening in, I would encourage you to look at data, especially through the lens of storytelling, because the people on the other end, now I am sure that you have different clients that you have to pass this information to. So some of them are probably, very higher up. Some of them are maybe mid-level. Some are maybe right there with you, doing the analysis, whatever. You need to be able to translate this for the different audiences too, right? Okay. Is that a challenge to be able to do that?
I guess there's a challenge at every stage. The challenge begins right from explaining what is an IO psychology. So I guess we've already, we're ready for the challenge, because we are already trained right from the fact of explaining what is IO psychology. But yes, especially when it comes to, different industry people and at different levels, the stakeholders and their interest areas also change. Right. So they're going to be able to understand not in the terms that IO psychologists speak. So it is not just a challenge. I say that just how you said right now, it's speaking in their own language. telling a story in which they would understand,
Yeah.
especially using the terms with which they are familiar. So let's say if I have to talk to any of my senior stakeholders, I would have to portray it in a manner in which they were expecting the results to come out versus the truth and the reality that they are facing, but in a way which is also appealing to their business needs and requirements.
Yes.
Versus when it comes to the people who are going to execute the strategies, right? They will need to know not just like the root cause analysis, but they would also need a consulting side of an IO psychologist with every detail as to what to incorporate in their behavior, maybe in their plan of action, or maybe in their task management system, or maybe in their learning and development initiatives, to make sure that they achieve the business needs and requirements that are set by the senior leaders.
Yeah,
And then
there's a lot to unpack there.
exactly. And then there are people who are not the executioners, but they're the people who are going to get the effects of the strategy being executed upon them, who will need a translated version as to why this entire thing is happening with them in the first place. Why do they need a training in certain behaviors? Why do they need certain change in the way they are working? And why do they need to change the way they are working just because they want to go from X to Y? So it's I guess these three levels I have tried to understand at every different level. But yes, as IO psychologists, the psychology part of it is what we will have to like take from from the books and try and implement it, just so to ensure that strategies, satisfaction, and efficiency are all together on the same plane.
That is so well stated. Whew. My goodness, what a really great conversation about IO psychology this has been. It's really about connecting. I think of it, I like to think in analogies, and I think about a roadmap. And so your different clients, you're painting a roadmap for each one of them. And you have to connect the dots, going back to the storytelling aspect. It's connecting the dots, and the dots that are relevant to them. So not all dots are going to be relevant to this level, this client, or this client, or this client.
Exactly.
And I would imagine that's got to be really satisfying to be able to just put that cap on and look at it from that way. So you're doing the analysis work, and then afterwards you get to have fun, because I think it's really fun. You get to have fun dissecting this analysis of everything, that all your findings and recommendations, and then putting it into a nice presentation that people will understand on their level. So, yeah. Now, my last question to you is, what advice would you give somebody who is considering entering this world of IO psychology?
Oh my gosh, there's so many thoughts running through my mind. So I had a lot of juniors coming to me. So in India, there's a junior senior system. Okay, so if anybody who is older to me in educational front, I would have to address them as a senior, and it's sort of like taking advice from them. A lot of juniors in my known circles tend to think that just because they want to pursue a career in psychology but don't want to go into the clinical field, they can take up an IO psychology. It's not the case.
Oh.
So that's, what I mean to say is that if you really want to understand what IO psychology is, it's all about trying to have a very balanced act between the ruthless corporate strategies that are already going on into the world, which are only concerned with numbers. And on the other hand, you have the people aspect. And somewhere you are in between, mediating these two different versions. And as a psychologist, you'll be bringing that element of such psychological principles to ensure that the human element is protected at all costs. If that's the value that you carry, then yes, please go ahead and pursue IO psychology. If that's the value that you do not resonate with, there are other fields as well.
That's a really great way to put it. Gosh, you just summed it up so nicely. For anybody listening who was either maybe on the fence or maybe never even heard of biopsychology, and now they're like, oh, wait a second, this sounds really intriguing. So you played to both of those, which was really nice.
I hope so.
What was your biggest takeaway from the IO psychology program at UMBC?
The biggest takeaway from UMBC IO psychology graduate program was the mentorship part, the mentoring program. And the entire advisory board that Dr. Lassen introduced to us, it's something that is always going to stay with me forever, because it's not just an opportunity for networking. It opened up my insights into what actually the people who are trying to establish milestones in the field of IO psychology, who they are, like the faces of people in the field of IO psychology, what they are doing, and creating milestones and creating history. The advisory and the entire mentorship program and the advisory members, it's something that I'm always going to carry with me, because I have connections with my mentors even today. I look up to them, I talk to them, I make sure that whenever I'm stuck, I take their advice. So that is something that I would, it's a unique quality about UMBC IO Psychology's graduate program, that's for sure.
Oh, that's great. Now, I love to end each podcast with a sort of professional development lesson. So a couple of questions. What is your favorite quote? What is it? What is that one quote that resonates with you?
Okay, that's a quote that applies to both professional as well as personal life, which my husband always keeps on saying to me. Hope for the best. Make sure you do your best, and expect nothing in return.
That's powerful. That is definitely frame worthy, to be able to frame that and look at that every day, morning and night, to remind you of what's really important and how to present yourself in the world.
Exactly. Yes.
Do you have a favorite book that you'd like to share?
So there are two favorite books that I have. The first one is Wise and Otherwise by Sudha Murthy. I'm not sure, but she's one of the co-founders of TCS, and she was a woman who was having this entire, breaking the glass ceiling right from the start of her career. And all her lessons she has quoted down beautifully in this book called Wise and Otherwise. And especially as a young girl, it impacted me a lot. And the second one is Do Epic Shit, which is by Ankur Warikoo. And I guess anybody who is trying to be, trying to question themselves, it's a book for them, because the confidence through which I got from that book, I don't think so I'll always be forever grateful to that author. So yes.
Absolutely. And one last question. Finish this phrase for me. Success is
the outcome of endless, diligent, honest efforts with absolutely dedicated time and true heart that you put into.
I love that. That's a
Yeah,
really great definition of success. And what I love about that is it's attainable and achievable no matter what you are measuring. If it's, I'm
exactly.
going to make someone smile today, you can measure it according to what you just said. It's not like this unattainable, like you have to do all of these things before you can reach success. You can reach it in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Twisha, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been a wonderful conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved meeting you. I'm so excited that we were able to connect from our different country points and be able to just have this really great conversation about a field that sounds amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure has been mine, especially for you to even consider me again. Thank you. Thank you. Just was one last thing, one Indian gesture like namaste. I hope you have a great day ahead.
Namaste. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about our offerings, please do a search for UMBC's IO Psychology Graduate Program. Or if you are watching this in video format, scan the QR code on the screen.